buzz about this fake news. You were the subject of a fake news story.
Oh, yeah, what'd they say? I was running for president? No, I
you
voted.
were running,
No, what'd they say?
You switched your support.
I switched,
from
yeah.
What do you make of all the fake news and it affects
If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed.
So what do you do?
That's the great question. What is the long-term effect of too much information? One of the effects is the need to be first, not even to be true anymore. So what a responsibility you all have to tell the truth, not just to be first, but to tell the truth. We live in a society now where it's just first. Who cares? Get it out there. We don't care who it hurts. We don't care who we destroy. We don't care if it's true. Just say it, sell it.
I'm Lisa Ann. I've been in the adult business over 25 years.
Lord only knows, I've never understood why Lisa Ann dislikes me so much, or has, sought to cause harm to LA Direct and its staff for at least a decade now, longer I think. I've never understood it. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but nonetheless it is the case. Just as she's done tirades and sought to cause harm to so many other people in the business. Why she did it to us, I've no idea, but there's a long list of people in a similar situation to us. What's really illustrative of this is in the Audible books, The Last Days of August, meaning The Last Days of August Ames, which really was a quality piece of journalism that we very rarely see in the adult industry, produced by Jon Ronson and Melina Mason. And in the middle of it, there's a part in which Jon Ronson receives a text message from Lisa Ann about 10 p.m. at night that he doesn't really wish to engage her. And she says,
"Yo, urgent, can you call me? It can't wait until tomorrow." I haven't spoken to Lisa Ann in a year, since I interviewed her for season 1 of our Butterfly Effect podcast, and so this is unexpected.
Oh, can you hear me?
On the phone, Lisa Ann tells me that it's been brought to her attention that I am doing a story on, quote, all the girls who died last year. It's a strange start to the conversation, because we aren't telling the story of all the girls who died last year, and we haven't told anybody that we are. We're telling August's story. She says that 3 of the girls who died last year were represented by the English agent Derek Hay. And I think a reason for this call is that she wants to persuade me to investigate their deaths and not August's, because she and Derek Hay have a history of business and personal disputes.
"Oh, well, you're asking a lot of questions of Kevin Moore, and Kevin Moore is a wonderful guy, and you shouldn't ask questions of him or suggest that Kevin had done anything wrong. If you really want to go after somebody that's done something wrong, then you should go after Derek Hay." Jon Ronson, of course, as you would expect, a journalist of merit, has no interest to hear this and swiftly ends the conversation with Lisa, has to actually sort of forcibly end the conversation with her and say,
"I'm going to hang up the phone because this is not an appropriate conversation." Okay, so I'm going to hang up. If you want to speak, we'll speak during the day, but not late at night. Okay, I'm hanging up the phone now. Okay, goodbye.
I understand actually from those 2 producers that when the piece came out, that they heard again from Lisa, who was very upset to learn that she had been recorded, that it had been revealed on tape, her methods of trying to get whatever she could arrange or manipulate to be detrimental to myself or Direct Models.
I was genuinely fond of Lisa Ann. We didn't have much in common, but I found her quite amusing. I had nothing against her until I read her book, and then that's it for me. You have slandered everybody in your book, people that I've worked for 18 years, including Derek, Jules Jordan, people that were her personal assistant.
To be honest with you, I thought that when she was here, that she had a pleasant work environment, that we all worked well together, and her partying wasn't bad. We didn't have bad blood. It just went downhill, and she talks so much shit about him.
I don't think if you went out in the valley and asked people's opinions of Lisa Ann, nobody would have anything decent to say about her.
It was really like working at the stock market. I mean, you had to be there from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., no matter what, 6 days a week. There was no lunch breaks. There was no sick days. There was no holidays. There was no vacations. I mean, at that time, Derek may have been booking 100 scenes a day at his agency. The things that I saw that really got me shocked were things like, at that time, Derek was paying guys to just walk around malls by schools and find 18-year-old girls and walk up to these 18-year-old girls and say, do you want to make $20,000 a month? These girls would get in the car with these guys. Derek would have them lined up at the office, and he'd be interviewing these girls, and he'd pay the guy $500 cash for each girl he brought in. These girls are just looking to get rich quick. They think they're going to be the next Kim Kardashian.
Lisa Ann did come and work with us in 2005. I think she stayed with us for about a year. She actually did quite a good job, I have to say. I won't say differently, but of course, that it's like Wall Street or a boiler room, or I think that's what they call it, isn't it? 6 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., no lunch breaks and no holidays and no sick days. Well, I'm sure it'd be easy to disprove that anyway. We do take lunch breaks, yeah. I'm pretty au fait with California labor law. I know if you provide a meal, lunch break needs to be 30 minutes, and if you don't provide a meal, lunch break needs to be an hour. Yeah, we abide by that. And it's only reasonable anyway.
I saw Lisa Ann on camera, and I had a chuckle to myself because I was working with her during the time she worked for us. So I'd say 100% of what she claims is falsified, exaggerated, or just not true.
Some of it is just complete and utter lies, and some is exaggeration. There was never a time that we booked 100 scenes a day. There may have been in the early part of that decade of the noughties. I think we might have hit a record one day and booked 50 scenes in a day. But I think that was prior to her coming anyway, because I would say that was probably around 2002, 2003. Paying a guy $500 to stand by a mall or a school is just another outrageous lie. We've never done that. We've never employed recruiters. We don't employ them now. We never have employed recruiters. We have paid finder's fees, which almost every agent does. If a scout sends you a model that you're interested in, usually it sends you an email with pictures of a model. Are you interested in this model? Typically, there's quite a bit of back and forth on that. It's very, very rare that somebody would say, hey, I'm round the corner from your office, I've got a girl who's interested, can I bring her by? I can't even think when the last time that happened. Very rare. As you listen more closely, it becomes more and more nonsensical. 1 minute, these guys are approaching complete strangers in malls and near schools, and the next minute they're just looking to get rich quick. That happened quickly. Between the time from the mall to the office, they're already ready to get rich quick. I despair of the idiocy of the just complete fabrication.
And then he critiques everything about her. Okay, you need to get extensions. Okay, you need to get a little surgery. Okay, you need to get your lips done.
I can't think of a single instance when we would condition our representation of an artist on her having surgery. It's certainly true that I might say, we need to improve your hair, or we need to get you a tan, or we need to improve your nails, or your skin. In Hadley's case, she talked about that we took her to get her hair done and paid for her hair. We did. She had very poor hair. I arranged for her to go to a local salon I know close to me, not one I use myself, but a very good one, and they did a terrific job for her, and we paid the bill. And just as Hadley said, she's quite right. She had a skin condition, and we also know a very, very good dermatologist that's provided great service to our models over 20 years nearly, and we referred her to him, and he treated her successfully. We paid that bill too.
Derek said Lisa can't have them saving money. If they're not hungry, they won't show up for work.
The words, "if they're not hungry," attributed to me by Lisa Ann are untrue. I've never uttered those words. Nor do I believe that at all. In fact, many of our clients over the years have become, quite wealthy, drive nice cars, have nice wardrobes and so on, and that's fantastic. The goal is to have a successful career, and if you have a successful career, then a certain amount of comfortable lifestyle financially will come along with it. So the goal is to assist the model to achieve both of those things.
One of the other agents in the office was sent to go and pick up the girl's belongings at the model house and throw them into a garbage bag, pick the girl up on set, drive her 2 hours to the middle of nowhere, and drop her off on the side of the road. And this was done.
And now we get to one of Lisa Ann's most outrageous lies. Of course, we've never thrown a model's property into a garbage can, and neither me nor any of my staff have ever driven a model 2 hours outside Los Angeles and put her by the side of the road. It's just an awful, terrible thing to say, especially about my staff. I understand that Lisa Ann has waged war against me, if you like, if that's a way to say it, for 10 years or more now. But to say that about my staff, who have been with the company a long time and are really very, very caring people, is really terrible. Well, obviously, there's not a shred of truth to that whatsoever. And how illustrative it is that Dan Przygoda claims to have spoken to 26, 27 other people who corroborate various elements of his story, yet can't find one single girl to whom this happened to, and neither can Lisa Ann find one single girl to stand up and say, yeah, they dropped me off on a deserted desert highway or 2 hours outside LA. The whole thing is just preposterous.
I was here when Lisa Ann was working with us. I was actually here the day that she got hired and interviewed, and things, aren't the way she made them seem. We did not do those things. We didn't drop models off 2 hours away.
I managed to strike a deal with a hotel on Riverside where I could get a discounted rate, and I'd say, I can pay for you to be here for 4 or 5 days. And I would tell the girls, I'm supposed to drive you to the middle of nowhere right now, and I would leave them there. And so I would volunteer to do this job more than other people once I found out what was really happening.
Why didn't Lisa Ann see something wrong at the time? She must have been spending a lot of money if she saw this happening so many times, right? And every time it involved her, she was buying them 4 or 5 night stays in hotels in Studio City. Wow, that got expensive quick, huh? Or maybe it just never happened at all.
We have never, ever dropped anybody off anywhere other than where the girl was asked where she wanted to get dropped off. If she wants to go to Van Nuys train station, Burbank Airport, we make sure we take her there.
We always asked them where they wanted to go. If they had somewhere to go, we would find them somewhere to go, or a friend's house, or the airport, wherever they wished to go.
We do not dump anybody out on the street or anybody out in the middle of nowhere. And word on the street I heard is, even though Lisa Ann suggested that is what we do, in actuality, it's Lisa Ann that's done that. And I believe she did that to a girl that we repped at the time. Can't remember her name. She did drop her off with not a second glance.
All right, this is a spot where model Michelle Marie was dumped on the side of the road by Lisa Ann. I was sent here to pick her up, and then we rescued her. She was dumped right here, right between Pollo Loco and the Coffee Bean. Dumped on the side of the road.
This is sensationalist journalism at its worst. So many of Lisa Ann's allegations have no corroboration at all, just completely untruthful, wild accusations. The house, or one of the houses that's mentioned in the piece, at least the house in Los Angeles, is a house that I own. Miss Q, is her name Siouxsie Q, mischaracterizes my house as a model house. It's not a model house. Model house in the adult entertainment industry refers to a house specifically set up for models to stay in. Generally, they stay there for a short period of time, a week, 2 weeks, perhaps a month, and they're in and out, in and out. I do not have such a house. I did in the period 2000-2005, perhaps have a house like that, but I haven't since 2005. And the house that is pictured, which I'm offended and astonished that Dan Przygoda would actually picture my house in this, with clearly no concern for any models that may live there now. You know, why do you have to picture that actual house? Now, anyone who knows where that house is or finds out knows that models live there. I'm offended by that. Regardless, in the piece it talks about a lease. I do have some tenants and they have leases. They don't come in and out of the house. It's not a model house. If you notice, one model talks about having a 6-month lease. I don't know that we've ever done a 6-month lease, but anyway. And then another model talks about a year lease. So there you are. These are tenants. It's a house in which models live, but it isn't a model house in the way that term is commonly used and understood.
There was people just constantly in and out, just girls that would only last a week or a month.
I would wholeheartedly disagree with Melina Mason that there's models in and out. As I've already said, we don't use the house in that way. We did previously, but long before she came to the agency. And it wasn't actually that house, it was a different house.
If you need to go somewhere, you better Uber, but since you don't have any money because you're brand new, there's this really nice model bike, so hopefully you don't have to go far. The house manager was nice enough to leave the gate open for me so I could come and go as I pleased, but he liked me. So he doesn't like everyone, so he doesn't leave the gate open for everyone. I didn't even have a key to the front door.
I'm stuck, help! I'm like taller than the gate.
Yeah. Wire circles like in prison.
It's right next to a big major road, actually a couple big major roads, and right next to the freeway.
Very close to the main thoroughfare through the valley, Ventura Boulevard, which everybody knows has a surfeit of shops, bars, restaurant, everything you could want.
There's the dollar store, there's a Rite Aid, there's a grocery store, like, right there. There's Starbucks, Subway, right there.
I don't know anything about there being a bike. I would just say, again, I don't live in the house. I'm sure at some point somebody bought a bike and left it at the house, and it's become a bike that residents of the house can use if they choose.
So the notorious bicycle that was mentioned, it was actually stolen from the front of the house, which is why we closed the gate.
Right. Well, it should be closed at night.
Right.
It's just safety, right? Like,
right.
I have my own room. I have my own bathroom. There's so many bathrooms in this house. Like, you're never gonna have an issue of finding one.
It's 5 bedrooms. There's 5 bathrooms, so everyone has access to a bathroom. There's no shortage of bathrooms.
I have a house key, a gate key, room key. Like, everything's locked up, secured with a deadbolt. Never had any issues with anything getting taken from my room or anyone going in my room or anything.
It's difficult to make sense of some of these things that make no sense. There is an electric gate on that residence. Obviously the gate is open so residents can come in and out, and they have a key for the gate and a key for the front door. There's a pedestrian gate. The points that were made about seemingly my house in LA is prison-like, completely nonsensical. And I thought it was ironic that he pictured the house with the gate wide open, which indeed it is most of the time.
All right, so this is the driveway gate. It's typically open most of the day, but the only time it ever really closes is at night, you know. This is it. All right, so this is the pedestrian gate. It's usually open throughout the day or whatever hours are necessary. And it stays open because sometimes the driveway gate has to be shut and people can get through. So there it is.
With regard to Miss Tabitha Sharko, formerly known as Nadia Nabokova, I understand now known as Bunny Colby, I am contractually bound when asked about the dispute with Miss Sharko that was decided at the California Labor Commissioner to say that we believed that the decision from the Labor Commissioner was in error, but we resolved the dispute to our satisfaction instead of pursuing a trial de novo. In addition, I, like Ms. Sharko, am also bound by a non-disparagement and mutual confidentiality clause to not disparage or comment upon each other, and I intend to abide by my contractual agreement.
When it was done, I didn't get a check. It went straight to Derek because I owed him money for staying in his house. I owed him money for the flight, and I just felt used and violated because I didn't get to see the money.
How does it make sense that Hadley feels used and violated? We paid for her flight to come to Las Vegas. She'd live rent-free for I don't know how long, 2, 3, 4 weeks in Las Vegas and in Los Angeles. We paid for her medical tests. We paid for her hair, as she says we did, that we paid for her to see the specialist dermatologist on several occasions, that we paid to shoot professional pics of her, that we did everything so that she could begin work in this industry. And we shouldn't have asked her for any reimbursement. I don't know how that makes sense.
Hadley was rather upset that she wasn't shooting as much as Tory Black, Adriana Chechik, girls of that ilk. And I think the final straw that drove Hadley away from us was, I think she decided she was a lesbian. And then I believe the conversation that Chris had with Hadley was, a few days at the gym is not going to hurt you, which was interpreted by her as, I'm too fat. That was the end, and that's when she didn't want to work with us anymore.
There's an accountant within this office, and her job is to collect checks, and those checks were cashed by an accountant illegally signing the girl's name on the back of the check.
They're not cashed illegally. Nobody's signing other people's names on a check. The model has given us permission to cash her check. We do ask the models to sign an agreement that we can take funds owing to them and deduct appropriate agency commissions and forward them the balance.
I have never heard of an agency cashing a check for a performer and then having the performer come pick up cash. The norm is to be paid either by cash or check the same day that you shoot the scene.
In the adult industry, approximately 50% of the time, the model is handed the check. And that's what's called same-day pay.
I'd say it's 50-50. A girl will go to set, the director will give her same-day pay, we bill it, she then owes me either 10 or 15%. Some companies like us to bill them. It's less paperwork. If they have a production using 5 or 6 of our models, rather than getting 5 or 6 loads of paperwork for the talent to fill in, I send them one invoice, it's a done deal.
If they get paid later, how do they get paid? Invariably, we make arrangement to pick up that check and it gets to our office. And why do we do that? We do that because we do not trust checks in the mail. People that owe money often say, okay, I already put the check in the mail, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days later, it hasn't come. Did you put the check in the mail? Oh, no, I forgot, or yes, I did. And then when you finally get it, if you ever get the check in the mail, you realize when they told you a week ago they put it in, no, they put it in yesterday. Okay, we don't do checks in the mail. If the checks are ready, we send a driver, go pick up the check. Picks up the check, or the checks usually, because most companies are shooting more, once a week we may go to a company, you shot 4 or 5 of our models in the previous week, and the driver will pick up all of those checks. He'll come back to the office. The models are told your checks are here. But if there's a reason to cash a check, which might be a reason that we have or the model has, a lot of times models want to have cash. Okay, cash my check, take your 10%, give me 90%. The checks can be cashed. Yeah. Don't forget that approximately 20% of the time, or somewhere close to half of the time that a model isn't paid same day, the employer, the studio, is paying the agency the gross amount of money anyway. So there are many companies that pay the agency the gross amount. So if we have 4 or 5 models work for one company this week, the following week they'll send us a check for all of those artist fees, and then we'll say to those, we'll put that in our client trust account, which is an account deliberately set up to hold the funds that belong to our artist, or at least 90% of it belongs to our artists, and then disperse out 90% to our artist and retain 10% that is the appropriate agency commission for ourselves.
The benefit in having your check come to you, whether it's handed to you same day or whether it's mailed to you, is that's the address you use for your 1099s. But if you're with LA Direct, he pitches to the girls how untrustworthy the producers and directors are, and that the producers and directors are not allowed to have their address or their phone number. So all the checks have to come to the LA Direct office. But the companies are not comfortable, and it's not legal for me as a producer to write a check to an agent for a girl's scene.
So Lisa Ann states it's illegal for a employer, for a studio, a company, to pay the agency for the work of their client. Once again, in this case, let's be generous, Lisa Ann is just plain wrong. The authority of a licensed talent agent to handle the funds of its clients is enshrined in the Talent Agency Act of 1978. In the first place, the state reviews and determines if they agree that that person is a person of good character, has to have a reasonable, stable financial background and good credit rating. You need a reasonably good credit rating to get the bond, which is a form of insurance for your clients, not for you. That's a form of insurance for your clients. To be licensed, to be a licensed talent agent. And if you are a licensed talent agent, then absolutely you can handle the funds of your clients. And as I said in my first video, in mainstream, and by mainstream I mean regular television, feature film, the theatrical stage, so on, in the mainstream entertainment business, the agent is paid 100% of the time. That is the total, complete custom and practice of the industry. The agent procures employment on behalf of the artist does the employment, and the employer pays the agent. The agent then disperses appropriate funds from those earnings to the artist, but retains back whatever commission percentage is agreed between the agent and the artist. The idea that Lisa Ann puts forward that the checks should be mailed to them is farcical. You could not believe how many times a great number of the models that we work with change the addresses that they live at. And if a company ever makes a mistake and mails a check directly to a model's residence, you can almost bet your bottom dollar they mail it to a residence where she no longer lives. And then starts this round and round circular about, I never got my check, but we mailed it. Well, where did you mail it? Oh, we mailed it here, but I told you 6 months ago I don't live there anymore, and now I live here. Okay, well, we'll have to stop the check. Okay, well, that'll take a week or two before the bank confirms it hasn't been cashed by anybody else, and it becomes a logistical nightmare. What isn't a nightmare is when our driver goes to a company and says, okay, the checks are ready, or the company notifies us the checks are ready. Okay, the driver goes and picks them up. They come to the office, and now the accountant phones, go, okay, your check for this shoot is here. By the way, I've got 2 other checks for you as well, so come in on your next day off and pick up all your checks. For 100% sure, they're here. If at the time the model's owed 10 checks, well, guess what? 3 of them are here now, 7 are still on their way. We'll let you know when they're here too.
Several years ago, a disgruntled ex-employee hacked the system where he used to work, and in that system are 3,000 girls' names, stage name, real name, home address, home phone number. So we advised girls, even though I'm not on set and they can basically do it or not do it, always use my mailing address. That way nobody knows your personal information, and it's for security reasons. I'll show you something. It's not just fan mail we're getting here. This is the fan mail. At any given time, I have 10 to 15 packages out there, because the girls have Amazon wish lists where they say, oh, I want this $900 pair of shoes. Some fan will buy it for it. They don't want to give their address out because they don't want the guy knocking on the door themselves. That's why we let them use our office address.
So balance forward, 15% commission fee for Emerald Triangle girls. I believe I got paid $700 and I owed them $85 for that.
We asked Hadley to go through several of her previous invoices. Lisa Ann reviewed them for us as well.
Now we see a girl scene that was $700, a 15% commission fee, and a $20 testing fee. So it seems that he's also charging the talent for their tests.
So when Lisa Ann speaks about testing and says, so they're even charging the model for testing, she actually gets it exactly backwards. Because as I have explained before, she says, oh, they're charging the model $20 for testing. No, we're crediting the model $20 for testing. Because in the norm in the adult industry for about 16 years, because I think testing began in 1997, and then in September of 2013, the head of the FSC, Diane Duke, decided without any sort of study or consultation with other industry professionals, she just decided that she would advocate for 14-day testing, meaning twice a month testing, instead of what had been the norm to that point was once a month testing or 30-day testing. And she decided that models should pay for that. Nobody else was going to pay for that. She decided that models should now test twice a month, and therefore they would have twice as much, it would be twice as expensive for them to provide these tests. LA Direct did not agree that that was fine for models now, just for her to just double the cost of testing to models. And we thought, which by the way, at the time, approximately half of the companies agreed with her and switched to 14-day testing and half didn't. So we thought those companies that are now going to ask the models for 14-day tests, i.e. tests that are taken twice a month, they should at least contribute to that additional cost that they're asking the model to pay for. In theory, or California law says, if you require an employee to have some sort of immunization, vaccination, or pre-employment medical screening of some sort, the employer should pay for it. It's never been the case in the adult industry. It's just been accepted that models always must pay for their own test. Okay, so when this started in September 2013, we said at least you have to contribute to this now doubling their cost. And the way that we did that was we said any company that employs a model and they want a 14-day test, on behalf of the model, we're going to charge them $20, which will go to the model. So in Hadley's case, when she's referring to a girl-girl shoot by Emerald Triangle, and she got paid $700, which she says, Hadley had a commission rate of 15%. 15% of $70 is $105. So she would owe us $105, except that we charged the company $20 for a test. So we credited her back the $20, leaving her owing $85, which she also says. That's the math, how you get, with a 15% commission of $700, how you get to $85.
I am not charging them the $20. I'm accrediting the $20, which, if you read the statement, it would be obvious to you.
$7,700 is what's here. But with all of these fees, the driver fee, the testing fee, the commission, so this poor girl on this invoice walked away after doing 9 shoots. So she had 9 sexual interactions with multiple people, which is a huge health risk. This girl is putting her health on the line to do this. She could have been getting what she thought would have been $7,700. She probably did quick math and figured 10-15% commission. I'm going to walk out of there with $5,000, right? That's what she probably thought. She's walking out of there with $498.74 because he is keeping the rest of her money.
From the top of the statement that they were referring to, the shoot on 7/7, girl 700, same day pay. The shoot on 7/8, boy-girl, $1,200, same day pay. Shoot on 7/10, boy-girl, $1,000, same day pay. Shoot on 7/12, BJ, $350, same day pay. Shoot on 7/19, 2 girl scenes, $1,400, same day pay. Then a cat tree purchased by Direct Models, billed back to her. We'll get to the cat tree in a second. Then 7/21, boy-girl, $1,000, same day pay. 7/22, boy-girl IR, $1,000 not same day pay. So that check came to Direct Models office. 7/24, boy-girl live show, that's a 1-hour live show, $700, same day pay. 7/25, boy-girl, $1,000, same day pay. And 7/28, boy-girl, $1,000, same day pay. So out of that series of shoots, 10 shoots in all, the total earning was $9,350, and she was same day paid, i.e. check in her hand at the end of the shoot, $8,350. So out of $9,350, $1,000 was sent to the office because it wasn't a same day pay shoot. All the others were put into her hand at the end of the shoots. So she was same day paid $8,350. Lisa Ann, of course, got the math spectacularly wrong, but I would speculate that was deliberate, not because her math is so poor. And I think she opines that this poor girl earns X amount of dollars, and out of all these thousands of dollars, only ends up with 400 something. Couldn't be more wrong. It's not that she only gets 400 something. She owes Direct Models $498 because her commission rate was a mixture of 15 and 10%. 15 if she chose to use our driver, 10 if she did not. It looks like on most of her shoots, she took herself to the shoots, so she was charged a 10% commission. So out of the total earning that she had, it ended up that she owed us $498 after having $8,350 given to her. If I had seen this statement with all these shoots that they seem to apparently have analysed so closely, and it says cat tree purchased $86.99 and we've billed her $86.99. Yeah, that would have jumped out to me. I would have been bursting to ask Derek Hay or Direct Models, what's this about a cat tree? You know, you're billing models back for a cat tree. Hadley wanted to stay in the house in LA. Believe it or not, after apparently what a terrible time she had here in Las Vegas while staying at my house, she then wanted to stay at my house in LA and asked me if she could bring her cat from, I believe, Phoenix, where she's originally from, because she had spent a short period of time here in Las Vegas and then wanted to go and stay in the house in LA, but she left her cat behind in Phoenix. And can I please bring my cat from Phoenix to LA? Well, we don't permit cats in my house, or any pets. We've never allowed any pets in the house in LA. Although I am a cat lover myself. I have, well, at times I've had 3, but I certainly have 2. I have 2 now. So I acceded to this request. I had a soft heart, let's say, and I thought, I don't like the idea of the cat alone in Phoenix. I'm going to let her bring the cat to the house in LA, but I know cats can have a hard time assimilating to a new environment. So I said to her, you can bring the cat, but you have to have a cat tree for the cat to scratch on. Hadley said, I haven't got enough money right now to buy a cat tree. So I said, okay, look, I'll buy you the cat tree and then you pay us back for the cat tree so that the cat doesn't scratch the furniture, just scratches the cat tree. And she said, oh, thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. And we did buy the cat tree, and our driver bought the cat tree and delivered it to her in the LA house.
This agent, who's not only getting commission from them, is also double dipping illegally and getting a booking fee from producers of $150 a girl.
Lisa then goes on to say that we're getting a booking fee of $150. I think she absolutely knows that's untrue. The standard in the adult industry since about 2003 has been $100. We actually raised our rate, I think, also in 2013, so that would be 6 years ago now, is $110. So at the time Lisa worked for us in 2005, it would have been $100, and I think she very well knows that the standard flat booking fee is either $100 or in our case $110, and never has been $150. Also, she says that it's illegal to charge a booking fee, which is absolutely and completely wrong. And again, for a moment, talking about the mainstream industry, they don't call it booking fee in the mainstream industry, they could call it agency percentage, which is a standard 10%. So, over the years, we have booked our models to numerous mainstream television shows and feature films. One of our artists appeared many times on the TV show Entourage, and also on the TV show Ray Donovan. And they absolutely expect you to invoice the artist fee plus 10%. That's how it works in mainstream. In the adult industry, we very rarely charge plus 10%. It's always $500 plus $100, $1,000 plus $100, $1,500 plus $100. In our case, $110. That's true since 2013.
So when I was working with them, my paychecks were always a surprise, I'll say. I had no idea what I was making. I wasn't keeping track of my money because they said, hey, Fran's going to keep track of your money for you. So I felt like this was a luxury, something that was a gift, like, hey, we're going to take care of this for you. But I come to find out that he was taking a double booking fee. I still to this day do not know how much money they were actually giving me.
Hadley believes the statements were confusing on purpose.
They want to confuse you with these statements so that you don't know how much you're owed, and they want to confuse you so that you pay them more than what they really deserve.
During my tenure here, I've always dealt with the girls directly. It is very important for me and the members of staff that the girls, or the guys, the models, understand the statements. I will sit with a girl 90 minutes, 2 hours, come back tomorrow until they understand what is what. At the end of the calendar year, I send out a complete breakdown of what they did within that year. Whether they file taxes or not is up to them, but I know if necessary, and they are going to file taxes, they need that breakdown of my statement, which shows every credit, every debit, every job they've ever done, any flights that they need to reimburse because they decided to go to the airport but not to get on a plane. Everything is down there. They have questions about itemized things on their statement, they call me.
It is not designed to be confusing in any way. It's designed to be as simple as it possibly can be, but the work nonetheless has to be done. The figures have to be on the statement, and the statement has to be accurate.
Things started to change with my relationship with Derek and the agency when I had started to branch out and attempt having a personal life. and I had begun dating someone very casually.
Lydia says she and Derek previously had an intimate encounter.
He had started blocking my work. I had a huge movie coming up for Digital Playground, and he blocked it. It just didn't make any sense. And I'm like, well, if you love me so much, if you care about me so much, why are you blocking my work?
The truth is the opposite. I never had any romantic relationship whatsoever with Melina Mason. We never dated. I never spent any time with her in a social element alone. We may have attended some events as a group. Never attended anything socially, never took her to dinner, never dated, and we certainly were never intimate. In fact, there were several instances where Melina was quite aggressive in advancing on me, toward me, making it clear that she would like us to have that sort of relationship, but it never happened. I think it's pretty obvious that you can't control who a model is going to choose to date, and we don't attempt to control. Of course, there are many instances once a model gets into a relationship a while and you just wish that she had chosen better. You know, there's an expression in the adult industry, suitcase pimp. Most people understand what that is. It's usually a boyfriend who has no job, who sits on the couch all day smoking weed and watching daytime TV, other than he may drive the model to her shoots and carry her bags onto the set. The worst kind of suitcase pimps try and hang out on the set and then drive the model home and usually take their paycheck.
I called my agent. I told him everything that had happened, that I had to have the emergency abortion, and that I wasn't going to be able to shoot because I was still going to be going through this process.
Adria says she had a 3-day shoot in Wisconsin coming up that Derek booked for her, and she told him that she would need to cancel it.
And he informed me that I was going to have to pay for my flight there and back that they had purchased for me, and that I would also have to pay the 3 days worth of kill fees on top of it.
According to Siouxsie Q, this is not how kill fees and cancellations usually work in the industry. Rather, most of the time a kill fee is paid to a performer from a producer if the producer has to cancel the shoot. It is rare for performers to pay producers kill fees when performers have to cancel a scene, because their agent generally works with the production company to substitute in a new performer instead of letting their client be charged a kill fee.
As you might expect, that over 20 years of doing business, at various times, different girls have become pregnant. One of our accounting staff, who is much more than that, who is an arm around a shoulder and a wealth of woman-to-woman and motherly type advice, has helped many girls get over the initial shock of that and help them to come to the right decision for them. And I struggle with Adria to understand how and why she's trying so hard to find fault with the agency. In the first place, as the piece earlier says, she did sign with the agency for 3 years and was tremendously successful for about 2.5 years. One of the sweetest, nicest girls you could ever hope to meet, and I think that, I think all of our staff think that, I still think that. She's a lovely girl, educated, smart, and in partnership with us, she was terrifically successful. Then she meets this new boyfriend, as she says, who was a boyfriend that had been abusive to one of our other models, actually, and we were not keen on him. And we would not allow him to work with our other models, which was became quickly a point of contention for her. And then, as she describes, this takes place where she cancels at short notice on a movie for which the producer had bought a flight, and her short notice cancellation caused the complete collapse of the entire movie. Why did it cause the whole movie to collapse? Well, you try and find a young, pretty, natural girl with good acting ability like Adria is, and it's hard to find a young girl as pretty as her, in all honesty. But you try and find, even in our business, a young pretty girl with really good acting ability like she has, with 24 hours notice, who can fly to Wisconsin tomorrow and shoot for the next 4 days, because they don't exist. Are there other girls like that in the industry? Yes, other agents have girls like that, and they could be booked a week from now or 2 weeks from now or a month from now. But have you got a girl that looks like Adria working in this business and she's not busy for the next 6 days? Impossible. So the producer reasonably submits their cost, which their actual cost probably was many, many thousands of dollars, but the producer charges her reimbursement for the lost flight and standard kill fee for 3 days of work. And the producer charges her that, not us. Yet somehow we as the agent are at fault. I don't understand that. And who should have paid for that if it wasn't Adria? Should we have paid for that, the agent? Should we have paid? Should the production company just have sucked it up and said, oh, well, our movie has collapsed. We've lost $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000. We wanted to charge you $1,300 of that because that seems reasonable and not excessive. I'm at a loss. Adria then goes on to say she was on another set and she felt faint and couldn't complete the day's work after she'd already been there for several hours. Okay, well, when she felt faint and said she couldn't continue, of course, the producer said, okay, we're not going to try and persuade you to continue. If you can't continue, then please go home and rest and be well. The producer then has to, if they've been in the location, typically a location's $100 an hour, however many hours they've been there, 3-4 hours, pay the location $300-400, pay the makeup artist, he already had a makeup done, pay the male talent, usually pay the male talent half their fee if they're already on the set, pay the other, whatever the other production staff are there, at least half money. If you're already on the job, it's typical to, and you get sent home, it's typical to get 50%. Okay, go home, you get half your money. So again, that producer could have been out a couple of $1,000s, and that producer said, we're going to charge Adria $750 for that. Okay, again, it's the producer that charged Adria $750, yet somehow the inference is that we as the agent were wrong. Again, this is an identical situation. I don't understand how we were wrong. And then there was a third instance where she cancelled same day on a producer, and then she said, and the kill fee of $200. She says she was charged a kill fee of $200, but she found out the producer, whose name is Jackie, didn't invoice the $200. Jackie never invoiced $200, and Adria was never charged $200. And we don't ever charge the model unless we receive the invoice from the producer, which, as she demonstrated in the first case. And I can't, for the life of me, understand how she struggles to find that we as the agents, as the agency, as her agency, are at fault for her actions that cause these different productions to collapse, costing those companies and producers a lot of money for which they billed her some of the money. Siouxsie Q is completely wrong when she makes statement that kill fees are only or usually paid by a company to a model when the model is cancelled by the studio. That's completely incorrect. Kill fees can be paid in either direction. Whichever party cancels on the other can expect to pay a kill fee to the person who didn't cancel. If a model cancels, she pays the studio. If the studio cancels, they pay the model. It works exactly like that. In actuality, models cancel a lot more than studios. You know, if you'd like me to give you an idea of that, you know, I would say models cancel maybe 70% of the time, studios cancel 30% of the time. It's not equal. Models cancel more than studios. There's no doubt about that. And many of the studios put it on the call sheets. You know, if you're late 30 minutes, it's $50. If you're late more than an hour, we'll cancel completely and charge you a kill fee.
They told me that I had a month off anyways, and that I had a month to basically get my shit together if I wanted to start shooting again.
Adria goes on to say that she told us that she had attempted suicide. And she's right, she did. And the minute we heard that, we said, okay, time out. You need at least a month off, maybe longer, but at least a month. And we're going to cancel whatever shoots are booked. We want you to take at least a month off. And whatever counseling, whatever help, whatever assistance, if we need to help you find counseling, we want to help you. We're here to help you. We offered to find the help. She characterizes the month off as being suspended. If we had done the opposite and said, no, you've told us you've attempted suicide, but we think you should keep working, we would have been accused of being in the wrong, and I think we would have been in the wrong. I don't think we were in the wrong to say, okay, time out, stop all of these shoots. You need at least a month off. Could be longer. You might never come back to shooting, but take time off, take a good amount of time off, get your counseling, and then we'll see where you're at.
It's morally and ethically wrong to financially pressure a performer into doing anything that she doesn't want to do.
Honestly, with regard to the comment of Adria Ray financially pressuring a model to do something they don't want to do, I think there's no greater opponent of that in this business as an agent than me. We have never pressured anybody to do something they don't want to do, and I'm well known in the industry. If a producer, director misleads a girl and tries to spring something, or misleads the girl and us, books one thing and then springs it on them on the day of the shoot, they really wanted them to do something else or something in addition. Anybody in this industry will tell you the last agency to try to do that with is LA Direct. Also, we're very well known to obtain some of the best rates for our clients if artists want to transition from doing something they are doing now to doing something they haven't done before. I feel after 19 years in the business, we're very good negotiators. We certainly have never and never would pressure a model to do something that she did not want to do. It's a contradiction. If you did that, you would have an unhappy model. The goal is to have a happy model for a long period of time, our goal anyway, because we're interested in longevity and career progression, is to have a happy model who has a long career in the business and a long career with the same agent.
I've had an insanely long but tremendously great relationship with LA Direct Models. As far as Francine Amador, she's been nothing but amazing. I consider her family. Derek Hay, nothing but amazing. Consider him family as well. I started off with them when I was 24. I'm 39 now. I'm no longer making adult movies, so I did choose to leave LA Direct Models when I retired from films, but that was the only reason that I stopped being with LA Direct Models. There was no bad blood. They treated me with the utmost respect, honesty, and they really had my back on anything. One of the things I really liked about being with this agency is Derek always looked out for our best interests. He never pressured me into doing anything I didn't want to do. You won't see me in a bunch of gangbangs or anything like that, because that would not have been good for my career, amongst a few other things that wouldn't have been good for my career that he advised against. He's always been there for me when I needed him, whether it was as a model or as a friend. So I can't imagine. I don't know what's been said, but I know my story. Most people know. If you don't know, I'll tell you. I did used to date Derek from, I would say, the beginning of my adult career. We started dating, but it wasn't necessarily Derek pursuing me. It was for sure me pursuing Derek. Girls are pursuing Derek all the time. I just recently showed his picture to a guy friend of mine who is into men, and he's like, wow, he's so attractive. I mean, Derek Hay is an attractive man. And then if you put into it the power part of it, and he owns the agency, and he's successful, the way he carries himself, it's very attractive to most women. So we all kind of fall for that. But it was never anything, him pushing himself on me. And we dated for, I would say, 2 years. We had a solid relationship. And it's funny because, there's a stigma out there where girls think, oh, if I don't date my agent, I'm not going to get any work. That had zero to do with it. It was all about how attracted I was to him. And I feel like if that really carried through, after the 2 years that I wasn't dating Derek Hay, my career would have fell. And I wouldn't have got booked, or shot, or went feature dancing. And to this day, I still have a working relationship. I would consider it as a partnership, where whenever new girls start to feature dance on the road, he sends them to me and they have to take a certain number of feature dance lessons. So I speak highly of him all the time to these new girls, and I wouldn't do that if I didn't believe what I was saying to be true.
The bartender made me really delicious drinks that happened to be extremely high alcohol content, but was mixed in with so many things I couldn't really taste it. We had a really great dinner. I thought it was just an agent model dinner. I didn't think that it was anything other than that. After dinner, I was quite intoxicated. Derek took me to his home. He took me to his bedroom, dropped his pants, and waited for me to do something.
Of all the statements made in this piece, in this program, of course, several of them made by Lisa Ann are just unbelievable in the fantasy lies and the malice in their manufacture. But the other one that is really crushing in its falsehood is Hadley Viscara alleging some impropriety in the sexual relationship that her and I had. We did indeed have sexual relations. We were intimate on 2 occasions. We did indeed one evening go to dinner in Las Vegas and have a few drinks. Hadley has certainly been coached to shape the narrative, I think, when she describes extremely high alcohol content drinks that I took her to my home. This was the home that she'd already been staying in. So, yes, did we return to the same house that she was already staying in? Yes, we did, yes. I had not prearranged bartenders to pour particularly stiff drinks, as if one can imagine all the planning that would go into that. By the way, I'm coming here at 7 o'clock. Make sure you pour extra stiff drinks. I mean, like 2 adults, we had dinner in Las Vegas, we had a few drinks, and later in the evening we were intimate. That's true. She stayed at my house for, I think, approximately 2 weeks. And it's also true, as she says, some days later, her and myself and another model, we did go to a well-known club in Las Vegas, a gentleman's club, and we watched the Conor McGregor-Floyd Mayweather fight. I don't go to nightclubs. I'm not out late. Must be 5-6 years ago that I went to my last nightclub, and I left after the fight, which was probably around 10:30. As she says, her and the other model stayed out much later and returned to my house, where she came into my room and reinitiated what we had done 4 or 5 nights previously. The idea that I'm standing behind the front door waiting for her to come home at some unknown hour that I can lead her by the elbow to the bedroom is, of course, pure fantasy as well. It's a terrible twisting of what actually happened in order to besmirch my name and reputation. It's simply untrue. when Hadley says she left the room to go and sleep in the room that the other model was staying in, that also is not true. She left the room to go and stay in the room that she'd been staying in already for 10 days or thereabouts. So that does, I have to admit that does really sadden me to be accused of that, because it is really a falsehood.
You're a slave to Derek now, and you have to work your ass off until you can claw your way out of debt.
The new girl that came out and worked for 2 months, 20 days a month, 40 scenes, made $40,000, she's not new anymore. So now her work is slowing down. But guess what? She didn't save any of that money. She didn't pay any taxes. She's still on the hook to her agent. So the next step is escorting.
Because I'm so broke and in debt from Derek Hay, I turned to prostitution.
The Luxury Companion is a high-end escorting site featuring porn stars.
$40,000 wasn't enough to pay off her agent. Sorry, I know I'm trying to make sense out of nonsense, but it's a complete incongruity here. The juxtaposition of Hadley saying she didn't have any money and she owed money to the agents, cut to Lisa Ann saying the new girls come in this business, shoot 20 scenes a month for 2 months and make $40,000. And then Hadley goes on to say, if you haven't got any money, then you can go to escorting. Okay. Many girls choose to do escorting. I don't think it's difficult for anybody to figure out that a girl who's comfortable having sex on camera for the world to see, for money, for a fee, might be comfortable to have sex with one person in a residence or in a hotel room for money as well. And especially if doing that takes an hour, where making an adult film will take 6 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, even notoriously 14 or 18 hours. No names mentioned. Few directors are now business and still call that one day.
Derek has the Luxury Companion. It's a very duplicate site to LA Direct Models, said to be owned by different, but if you really look deep into it, to the photos, some of the photos are the exact same photos of the photos on his agency website.
It's long been the case that anybody who wanted to cause harm or speak harm of myself or LA Direct leveled a charge against me or the company that we are in business with or own the Luxury Companion. At least this piece didn't make the false claim that I own the Luxury Companion. It has been falsely made many times in the past. I don't own the Luxury Companion, and we don't have a business relationship with the Luxury Companion. LA Direct is not an escort site. It has never been an escort site, and we don't book escort work. It's very possible that what Miss Mason says happened, that we were at some sort of social event and both there. We would have been friendly, or indeed that we went to dinner in a group and they were part of the group. That absolutely could have happened. I don't specifically remember that, but it certainly could have happened. Then she says she had a private conversation that didn't involve me, and she learned what business that was, and she decided she wanted to partake in that. She chose to do it of her own free will and choice.
For the new models at the agency, they would do a photo shoot for agency pictures so you could, get booked. And the photo shoots always happen at Derek's house. It was a pretty quick process.
If you look at the photos that Melina is referring to, you can notice that there's the same background as here, which is a studio that we often use for the photos, so we don't shoot photos at my house. Somebody did an analysis of the various models that are on TLC and what agency they're with. It was enlightening, actually, because the number of models from LA Direct was less than 20%. And there were models working with that business from virtually every different agency in the adult industry. And I think there was 1 or 2 agencies that had a higher percentage working with them.
I don't see a lot of 5-year contracts outside of them being thrown around.
The contracts that LA Direct uses are identical to the contracts that every other talent agency in the adult entertainment industry uses, or all the licensed ones anyway. All of the licensed agents use the same contract. The Department of Labor dictates to talent agencies, not merely talent agencies in the adult industry, but all talent agencies in California. Here is your license and you must use this contract. So it's identical. If you want to change it, you can make changes to it and submit it to the Department of Labor, and if they approve your changes, then you're permitted to use a change contract. To my knowledge, nobody in the adult industry has ever done that. That said, the Department of Labor prohibits signing an artist for longer than 7 years. 10 to 15 years ago or more, it used to be the case that you would sign an artist for 1 to 2 years. That was the norm. Then the marketplace became more competitive because many more agencies formed. The marketplace became more competitive and agents wanted to sign artists for longer periods of time to ensure that the benefit of their work, of their investment, of their time, their energy, their experience, the value of their work wasn't lost by another agency coming along after a couple of years of success with an artist and saying, offering them some inducement to switch agencies. The length of contracts started to move longer. The state puts a limit of 7 years, but we've never signed a model for 7 years. So we have signed models for 5 years. I think for a long time we were 1 or 2 years, and I think we went up to 3 years. And we have signed models for 5 years. But many other agencies have signed models for 5 years as well. When I don't know who Siouxsie Q is, I never heard of her before this show, but when she says in this piece that that's unusual, it absolutely is not unusual. So I would disagree with her opinion on that. Melina Mason talks about, 5 years seems so long. Adria Ray says she doesn't know where she's going to be in 5 years. I should absolutely make it clear, if you sign a contract with an adult talent agency for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, it doesn't compel you to work in the adult film for that period of time. If you choose after 6 months, I don't want to do this anymore, then you stop. You absolutely stop. It merely compels you, if you wish to work, that you work through the agency that you've signed with. There's no compulsion to work at all. Models only work when they choose to work. Three out of the 4 had 3-year contracts. So pretty standard and pretty consistent, I think.
Porn always wants new. It always wants that fresh new thing. And every day there's going to be a new girl that's willing to go and shoot. So it's easy to recycle through them.
Adria is correct when she says that there's a constant thirst of the industry for new girls. There certainly is. And all of the companies, if a hot new girl comes along, wants to shoot a hot new girl. But LA Direct has been successful probably more than any other agency in guiding careers over long periods of time. And nobody else, I don't think, could say this. In fact, I'm certain no other agency could say this. I can think of at least 4 models that are with us now that have been with us more than 10 years. In fact, one model reminded me just today that she's been with us 14 years. That's a long period of time. We are really focused on longevity and really having a successful career. That's what we aim to achieve with the girls. We're not an agency that's, our business model is bring in new girls, cycle through them for 6 months and bring in more new girls. That isn't our aim. There are agencies that are much more specialized that do that, but it's not us.
former adult film performer Lydia Dupra filed a complaint with the labor commissioner against Derek Hay and LA Direct Models in 2013, alleging that Hay withheld money owed to her and is linked to an illegal escorting business that he required her to work for in order to earn money.
And I had met another agent. He had taken an interest in me. We went to dinner and he's like, I'd like to represent you. All you have to do is get out of your contract with Derek. I was like, okay, well, Derek doesn't like me anymore, so this should be pretty easy. And I said, hey, Derek, we had great times. I would like to leave my contract now. And that was declined. And sometimes he offers girls, you can buy yourself out of it. And that was not an option for me. He wouldn't allow me to buy myself out of the contract. So that's when the lawsuit started.
Lydia hired a lawyer to file a complaint with the labor commissioner to get out of her contract. She says the legal process went on for almost a year and a half.
I was hemorrhaging money, and I had realized I don't even want to shoot porn anymore because my experience was so horrible at the end that the whole thing felt so traumatic for me just to know that he's still there and I would have to see him at award shows.
Lydia says she decided at this point to withdraw the complaint and retire from the porn industry instead.
I believe we worked for Melina Mason for a period of time, somewhere between 1 and 2 years. It was a very, very good working relationship. For a period of time, she was very successful.
What changed?
Honestly, I have no idea what changed. Other than she met the attorney, Alan Gilbard. There's that name again. The story of that Labour Commissioner petition is that her counsel, Alan Gilbard, alleged all manner of terrible crimes, criminal acts, none of which were true, complete fabrication, no merit to any of that case, and of course I chose to vigorously defend the case. As it proceeded, not the actual case because we never got to trial, but as it proceeded, of course, much of the spurious fantasy of criminal acts was removed, as it appropriately should have been, leaving a case that had no merit. Miss Mason's counsel, in the end, asked if we would settle for a really small amount, for a few $1,000s, and I declined, even if the resulting hearing, you could call it a trial if you like, would have cost me anywhere close to 10 times that. I wish to defend myself. In the end, he withdrew the suit, and that was the end of that matter.
It was horrifying when I found out 6-7 years later that I was sex trafficked and I didn't even know.
The dilution of the use of the word sex trafficking is abhorrent, right? Sex trafficking is abhorrent, and it should not be misused in order to throw mud at people, in this case me. But, over the last couple of years, it's become more and more commonplace to allege or suggest or whatever these kinds of things. It's the same thing as saying, so-and-so raped me. There are genuine victims of sex trafficking, which is keeping generally girls, I presume, falsely imprisoned, kidnapped, and forcing them into sex work. This is completely unrelated to a girl who chooses to work in adult film or chooses to work in escorting. So on viewing the program produced by Mr. Przygoda, at first I had no idea who Lydia Dupra was, though I thought it was Melina Mason. Of course, it turns out it was Melina Mason. And not too long after that piece aired, I received messages from various friends and so on asking me if I knew really what Lydia Dupra had been doing since she left Direct Models 6-7 years ago, whatever it was exactly. My curiosity was really piqued though when I saw in the credits of the program it referenced Lydia Dupra now runs a business and a website where she refers and mentors young girls who want to get into the adult industry and escorting. It's hard to imagine a greater contradiction. She claims to have been sex trafficked as a result of an incidental dinner, and here she is running a business, which clearly, now it transpires, there's a whole Vice program about her, which I've watched, and it's clear that she runs and has run for many, many years now, and is very proud of it. A business, a house of prostitution, let's say, an escort service, and has written, I think, 9 books available on Amazon on the subject of being the world's best escort, essentially. And her being the best madam to run those escorts or to manage those escorts, although she does not call herself a madam, she calls herself a Heaux Mentor. Lydia Dupra, in one or more of her books, speaks about how she first worked as a prostitute at the age of 16. She met me at the age of 21, so one imagines she continued to work as a prostitute from the age of 16 till she met me. We know that she then continued to do that since she left Direct Models 7 or 8 years ago, of course, and been quite public about it. So obviously there's not a shred of truth that she was sex trafficked, but nor is there even a shred of truth that Direct Models or myself did anything at all to encourage her to do that work. Dupra struck a bell in, the back of my mind, like, where have I heard that name before? And sure enough, just sort of digging back in our files a little bit, a former male actor that we represented at the same time as Melina Mason, whose stage name is Derek Pierce, and his real last name is Dupras. So quite clearly, she took his name and lopped off the S to get the Dupra instead of the Dupras. I understand that their relationship has continued for many years, that they have sold houses to each other, that they have cohabitated in the same house. And what's really interesting as well about that is that Mr. Pierce's previous girlfriend was well known in the industry to have run an escort service previously. I'm actually not going to mention her name. I think she's completely out of the business now, and I wish her well in whatever she's doing now. But at the time, and we're talking somewhere in the region of in the period 7 to 10 years ago from now, she ran a very well-known escort service, and Derek and her were an item. They were partners. So it would appear to me anyway that, Mr. Dupras or Mr. Pierce, whichever you'd like to call him, moved from one long-term girlfriend running escort service to another. Whether he influenced Melina Mason to become Lydia Dupra and start an escort service, I don't know, but maybe she had that in her own mind already, and that was perhaps something that attracted him to her, or perhaps it was the reverse.
He said, move to the dollhouse and we're going to work and make money all the time.
Do they pay you to live here?
Yeah.
But they sign the contract with the rent?
Yes, it's a 10-page contract, and rent is from $700 to $1,100.
She mentions that we asked her to sign a 5-year contract, of course, that in fact was only 3 years, but in her own piece speaks about how she has the girls sign a 10-page agreement, i.e. she locks them down, boom, 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 boom. Difficult to imagine what's in 10 pages of a residential lease agreement. Ours is 1 page, I think, but sort of very contradictory. Maybe it's a 10-year lease agreement and it's 1 page per year. I don't know. I speculate. And lo and behold, look who's one of the central characters of the Vice program on Lydia Dupra, but one Siouxsie Q. I notice throughout this piece the cuts to sexily dressed girls in lingerie and the counting of money. They're very salacious and very cliched. I'm actually surprised that a major broadcaster would allow the piece to be edited in such a way that so stereotypes the nature of our business. I don't think by any stretch anybody could argue that that was fair and balanced journalism. What a different piece this would have been if Mr. Przygoda had spoken with models that have been with the agency 3, 4, 5 years, in some cases 9, 10, 11 years, who have had multiple contracts with the agency that signed for 3 and then another 3, or signed for 3 and then 5. Not one single model like that did he bring into the piece. In November of 2015, we encountered a problem with a company that we had done business with for quite a few years, and for over the course of a couple of weeks, they had shot 9 of our models, and we couldn't get paid, which interestingly, one of those models was Adria Ray. And this does not happen very much in our business, and you can't predict when something like that is going to happen. But nonetheless, it's happened in the past, and all of my models know that they will always get paid. If for some reason we can't get the company to pay them, we will pay them. This was a big deal because 9 models, it added up to slightly less than $9,000. I think it was $8,700 or $8,800 that our models were owed, and we were owed booking fees amounting to about $1,000. And nonetheless, we paid all of our models. They were all paid in full by direct models. And then we sued the producer to recover the fees of our models, which cost us approximately $20,000 in legal fees. And we had a hearing for that almost 2 years later. I think the hearing was in August of 2017. And we needed those 9 models to come and testify at the hearing that they had done this work and appear in person to say, yes, I did this work, and I never got paid by the company, but some weeks later I got paid by LA Direct. 2 of them did come to the hearing, and unfortunately Adria Ray was not one of those 2. Nonetheless, the ruling did come down in our favour, and we were able to recover the artist fees that we had paid to our artists nearly 2 years previously, and our legal fees. It's sad to say Adria Ray was not one of those 2 that agreed to come and testify, and it's unfortunate, I think, that the inference in her statements that somehow we had done wrong by her, yet we absolutely did the right thing in that case, which I think very few agents, if any, except us, would have done, and it was completely not mentioned. After I viewed the program, I had many questions myself for Mr. Przygoda. I wrote to him on March 25th and invited him to sit in front of this camera so that I could ask him some questions. He wrote back the following day on March 26th, declined to do that interview. I'd also asked him if he wouldn't sit down for a camera interview, as he had previously asked me. Of course, I had agreed 3 times to do it, but with certain conditions that we've illustrated in my last video what those conditions were. I asked him to answer the questions via email. Mr. Przygoda did not do that. I have written back to him on April 6th, inviting him a second time to sit down for an interview with us. I asked him if he has any preconditions, please tell us what they are. I'm sure if they're reasonable. I told him if they're reasonable, we could accommodate them. Anyway, I've written back to Mr. Przygoda a second time to invite him to sit down. But if he doesn't wish to sit down, then I've asked him to answer these 30 questions via email. It would probably be too lengthy and too boring to read out all of the 30 questions, but we'll certainly post them all so you can freeze frame and read them all for yourself. But yes, to begin with, I certainly did ask him about his fact-checking or seeking to corroborate or seek to find any supporting evidence for any of the allegations, many of them absolutely wild allegations, particularly those from Lisa Ann, of course, in his piece. So if I just read you the first three questions. Question one was, did you fact-check or seek to corroborate or seek to find any supporting evidence for any of the statements made by the 4 models in your program? Question two, if yes, why did none of this corroboration or supporting evidence appear in the program? Question three, it would be reasonable to imagine that NBC Standards and Practices has a reasonably stringent requirement for a program such as yours to show evidence that would support allegations within them, especially in many cases in your program, very wild allegations. If no such corroboration or validation exists, how were you able to get NBC to clear this program for publication? The piece by Mr. Przygoda is extremely one-sided. There's no counter-argument, counter-statement of any kind throughout the piece. So I ask more questions about that. For example, another question is, did you perform on-camera interviews with sources who contradict or differ with claims and assertions made by witnesses who appear in your program? And if so, why do no such witnesses or differing perspectives appear in your program? I happen to know that he spoke to a great many people who had vastly different opinions than those that appeared in the program. And they, of course, they don't feature at all. Many of those persons declined to appear in his program because they were not going to answer in the way that he was leading the question. In other words, the questions when he sought these persons out was, are you willing, have you got any dirt to dish on Derek Hay or direct models? And if yes, are you willing to go on camera to dish the dirt? Not what has been your experience, is it good, bad, or indifferent, but if you've got anything bad to say, I'm interested to record it. I was interested to know if the models were compensated in any way for appearing in the piece, so I asked him the question, were any of the models paid or compensated in any way to participate in the program? If so, please provide detail. I also asked him why he felt it necessary to insert the constant and repetitive salacious images of girls gyrating in lingerie and the constant images of cash being counted. And some of my anyway, more observant friends pointed out to me that there's more than one instance where the cash counted is $1 bills. So I also, it's not funny really, but I also wanted to know, was that deliberate or an oversight on his part? Because some people opine maybe it causes the girls to look cheap if they're counting $1 bills. So then I had many questions about Lydia Dupra, because no sooner had the program aired than my phone was ringing and text messages flying in about, don't you know who Lydia Dupra is? That's formerly Melina Mason, and XYZ, all these things that she's done since. So it beggars belief if I could find that out almost immediately after the program aired or was posted on the website. So, a few questions that I asked Mr. Przygoda about her was Lydia Dupra, real name Amanda Drago, a.k.a. Melina Mason, states in your program that she was sex trafficked after meeting Derek Hay at age 21. Also publicly claims that she's been involved in prostitution since the age of 16. Were you aware of this? Question 13, were you aware that Miss Dupra publicly brags about her success as a prostitute for years after leaving LA Direct Models, and that she has written at least 9 books on the subject and has a website that remains active now, seeking to recruit and mentor girls to join her in the profession of prostitution? The website being lydiadupra.com. So then I had some questions about Lisa Ann. Of course, I knew Lisa Ann was involved in this months and months previously, because Mr. Przygoda had 3 times invited me to appear on camera and 3 times sent me sets of questions. But on the second and the third set of questions that he sent me, many of the questions were ludicrous, and I knew immediately that only one mind could have come up with questions with that amount of deliberate idiocy, and it could only be Lisa Ann. A couple of the questions are about Lisa Ann. Lisa Ann Caparo, aka Lisa Ann, were you aware of the long list of adult industry members and stakeholders whom Lisa Ann has publicly attacked or threatened over many years, and who have been subject to frivolous legal action and or threats of the same? Did you solicit Lisa Ann to participate in the programme, or did she volunteer to appear? Then I did ask a few questions about the Labour Commissioner hearing. I was indeed surprised that Mr. Przygoda had an audio recording of that hearing, because it was my understanding there was to be no audio recording of that hearing, so I presume it was recorded surreptitiously. So I did ask him if he solicited for that hearing to be recorded, specifically so it could later be used in his programme. Still on the Labour Commissioner, the last question of the 30 was, since you are aware of the Amanda Drago case and the Jane Doe case, surely you must also be aware of several other cases before the Labour Commissioner in which direct models prevailed. Why were none of these mentioned?